And let me introduce Chris a bit, but I will elaborate upon his story. Christopher is actually a Canadian, settled in Canada, and he had a medical condition which required various operations. He will elaborate more. And during one such operation, as I understand, out of the blue, suddenly when he came out of that operation, he was basically blind. Uh, and that has been the situation since then. But in spite of that, he has tried to overcome those situations. He's a very positive person. And his motto is, as he says, he's on this planet for fun. So that, really interested me. I really want to be on this planet for fun also, quite frankly, I think we are all, although we sometimes wish we had a more purposeful living, but fun is a good purpose to have, I think. So we'll take it from there. And well, over to you, Chris. Let us start with your background. Where are you right now? Which city? What were you doing earlier? How did you come to be where you are? Take it from here, Chris. Okay. And I will keep butting in a little bit if necessary, wherever I can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Great. Sounds good, Hardeep. Thank you. Good. I would say good morning, everybody, because it's morning for me, but it is good evening for you over in India. And thank you so much for having me. So yes, my name is Christopher Gordon. And as Hardeep alluded to, I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So I'm very close to the Rocky Mountains in Western Canada. And in fact, the mountains are about a 1 hour drive away. We can see them from our place. So we get the joy of waking up to that every morning. And it's just after 7 a.m. here in Calgary. But we're going to talk a little bit about my experience, how it came to be that I'm a stroke survivor, I suppose is the term. I don't very often use that term. I'm just a guy who had a stroke, is the way I look at it. But as Hardeep mentioned, I have a condition called hydrocephalus, or water on the brain. So I have a little 2-catheter system and a backflow reservoir. The backflow reservoir sits on my skull, but under my scalp. And then the one catheter goes down to my chest where it drains fluid away from my head, because my brain is producing too much of the cerebral spinal fluid that it needs to stay moist and nourished. But my brain overproduces, so they needed to drain it away. And I've had this condition since birth. Pardon me for a second. I've had this condition since birth. The first shunt that they put in me, shunt is what they call it. The first shunt that they put in went in when I was 3 months old. I'm now almost 40. I'll be turning 50 this year. I am 49. And I've had this shunt system revised 15 times over my lifetime. Sometimes it happened because I was growing and I was sort of outgrowing the length of catheter they were giving me. And other times it was because I was a very active boy, a very active young man. And sometimes I would get into situations where I would do damage to my head or to my chest that they would need to go in and replace it. So in 2005, so almost 16 years ago, it was October 2005, I was having a lot of difficulty. It wasn't anything that I had done. I was just having a lot of difficulty. I had a severe headache. I was very dizzy, very difficult to concentrate. And so I told this to my spouse at the time, and she took me to a hospital where they confirmed, okay, yes, the shunt is not working. We're going to need to operate. So they went in and they did the operation. But after the operation, I didn't recover as well as I should have. Normally, when I have this operation, they go in, they change the shunt. I wake up from the surgery, and after about an hour, I'm good to go. I'm ready to take on the world again. But this time, that didn't happen. I wasn't really waking up. I wasn't really sort of getting I wasn't becoming myself. And so they noticed this, the medical staff noticed this. And so they did more tests, and they said, okay, yeah, it looks like the one we just put in has blocked again. So they said, we're going to have to take him in for another surgery. But while I was waiting for that second surgery, I actually slipped into a coma, and they couldn't wake me at all. I didn't wake up at all. And so then they rushed me into the surgery, did the operation. And when I woke up the next day after the surgery, I had, when I first woke up, I felt pretty good physically, and mentally I seemed okay. But when I was looking around the room, everything was very, I was seeing a lot of shadows, and everything was very low resolution. It just didn't seem to be very, nothing had great detail, and everything seemed sort of cloudy and gray. And I didn't really think about it in the sense that I thought, well, I must still be groggy from the surgery. Maybe I'm just extra groggy today. It's no big deal. And it wasn't until my spouse came to see me that, as we were talking, she realized that there was something wrong. And so she asked me, she said, she had seen the doctor do this for me. So she put up a couple of fingers, and she said, how many fingers am I holding up? And I said, I can't see your fingers, but I think I see your hand. And that was kind of the warning bell for her. So she went and told the nurses, and the nurses alerted the doctor. And so they did more tests. They did an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. They did an MRI test. They did a couple of other tests, and they found out that when I had slipped into that coma, the coma was from the pressure on my brain, and it had squeezed the blood vessels to the occipital lobe in the back of my brain. And that starved those blood vessels, that cut the circulation. So when I woke up, I was actually basically blind. I couldn't see much more than light or shadow. And after they found what had gone wrong, the doctor, he and I had a meeting, and he told me what happened, and he said, there's a really good chance that you will get some of your eyesight back, but we don't know how much. He said, you'll have to just wait for a year and see. So that's what we did, sort of. They released me from the hospital. And they gave me a referral to the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, or CNIB, as we call them. And through CNIB, they helped me be able to do things with my reduced vision. I was able to see a little bit, but really not much more than light and shadow, but I could do some things. So they worked with me to show. They gave me a white cane. They showed me how to navigate safely. We put some little stickers on some of the buttons on some of the appliances in my home, so that I could still use my microwave and my stove. And they also they taught me a few other strategies too. They showed me some assistive technology that was very helpful, because even though the doctor said I might get some of my sight back, we didn't know how much. So they decided that they wanted to teach me to manage with low vision. So they gave me all the tools as they would for any other person who was losing their sight. And I was a bit hesitant, and I was a bit resistant at first, because the doctor said I might get some of my sight back. So I had an idea in my head. I was hopeful that I was going to get it all back. And about 7 months after the surgery, it started to dawn on me. I wasn't recovering very fast. I had recovered some, but I wasn't recovering very fast. And so it dawned on me that this was going to be permanent. I had better sight than I had when I left the hospital, but I still didn't have nearly enough. But it started to dawn on me that it was going to be permanent. And so I needed to make some changes. Like I said, I was given a white cane and I was given assistive technology and different things. But I had to, through all of that time after the surgery and for the next 7 months, I was on long-term disability program from my workplace. So technically on paper, I still had my job, but they were just waiting for me to recover. But then two things happened. The doctor told me that my recovery was done. I wasn't going to get any more of my sight back. That was very hard news to hear, very disappointing news to hear at the time. And that same day, or actually no, it was the next day. It was the very next day. My workplace called myself and all of my other teammates in and said, "We're moving our operation to another city. Your job is done in 4 months. None of you will have a job." I was living in Toronto, Canada at the time. And that was very shocking news from both the doctor and from my workplace. So then I was very lost. And I will tell you that even though I was gaining some of my sight back in that first 1 to 2 years, maybe even 3 years, I went through every stage of grief. I had the bargaining, the denial, the anger, the depression, and finally acceptance. But it was a very bumpy ride. It wasn't a smooth that I did this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. Some days I'd be having a very good day and I was enjoying and I was, having some fun. And other days I was just in the deepest depths of despair and losing hope, losing enthusiasm, and thought, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is the life I want. So I went back and forth through all of those different stages. But after about 3 years, I think I got pretty good. I got very comfortable. I did change careers. So when I was fully sighted, my career was in the television business. I was working behind the scenes in a technical job in television. But I needed my full eyesight to do that job, so I couldn't do it anymore. So I went, I did some studying. I was given some assistive technology that helped me read books. And so I studied courses for the financial services industry. So I went into that for a number of years and really enjoyed it, really liked the learning. And it gave me hope, and it gave me a different path, and it gave me something else to focus on. And I've been able to come out of it. I mean, this is almost 16 years ago now. I've been able to come out of this partly because, as Hardeep mentioned at the beginning, I have this motto, and I have it on a t-shirt and on a sweatshirt. I have this motto that I am on this planet for fun. And that was a motto that I had actually adopted for myself even before my sight loss. So when I lost my sight, of course, like I said, I went through all of those stages. And so it made it very difficult some days. But I always had that idea in the back of my head that I was on this planet for fun, and I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to find ways to have fun. So I think that was one of the things that kept me going. Plus, I had wonderful support from my family and some very, very close friends who really stuck with me and stayed close to me through all that time. Pardon me a moment. So I had some very close friends who stuck with me, and family And because of that, and because I was able to switch into the different industry, I was able to regain my confidence, my happiness, and yeah, so those are some of the things that helped me get out of it. And like I said, I also had the great help from CNIB with the assistive technology and the mindset and the skills that they taught me to be able to move forward. And I regained a lot of my previous self. Some tell me that I even gained a little bit more ambition than I had before, but I don't know. I'm just me. I'm just doing my thing. But one of the many positive things that did come out of my experience, when very early on, I was writing a journal about my experiences and what I was feeling and what I was thinking and what I was going through. And about 2 or 3 years into writing that journal, one of some people around me said, I'd kind of like to read that someday. So I then sort of had an epiphany moment, or a light bulb moment, I like to call it, where I thought, I'm going to write a book about this. So I took all of my journal experience and kept writing, and I turned it into a book. That book has now, I put it out on the internet, and the book has now sold in 6 different countries, which has just absolutely blown my mind. And it's been a really good experience. And then I've been asked to do things like this, like speaking with you folks today. I mean, none of this stuff would have happened if I hadn't had the stroke, or if I hadn't lost my sight. I'd just be a regular guy who had a regular life. Now I've had some very different things happen to me, but I've been able to find ways to use it positively, ways to use it, to help others. Because in fact, I switched to financial services, and I did that for about probably about 8 years, but I got very bored. I didn't really like it as much as I thought I would. So I actually work now for CNIB. I went to work for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, and my role is doing education. So I go out to seniors' homes, and I go out to schools, and I talk about sight loss, and I talk about assistive technology, and I talk about whatever they want me to talk about related to their vision. And I love this. Oh my goodness. I love this job. I love being out in the community. I love telling people that even if they're losing their sight, it's going to be okay. Yes, it's hard some days. It's absolutely hard some days, and it's challenging, but it's going to be okay if they want it to be. And so so now I've been doing this job I've been with CNIB for about 4.5 years, and I absolutely love it. I'm having a wonderful time. I've met some fantastic people, and I love sharing this experience and letting people know that, even with less vision, life is good. Hardeep told me that before we started this today, Hardeep told me that he's been watching some of my videos that I did on YouTube. Because I always loved the television business, I wanted to be in it since I was a boy. So back last August, in August 2020, partly because of the pandemic and needing something to do, I started recording videos about my sight experience. So now I'm having fun because I'm recording and editing videos just like I used to do in my previous career. So I feel like I've got a little bit of that career back, and it adds to more of my happiness. So I'm having a lot of fun with that as well. And, the last thing I'll say on this is one of the other things I did is I joined a group on Facebook for CVI, cortical visual impairment, which is the name of my sight loss condition. And through that, I met Melita, who connected me to Hardeep, and here I am. So this is fascinating to me. It's fascinating, and it feeds that fun part of me, because here I am talking to you this morning, evening for you, and this never would have happened if I hadn't lost my sight and hadn't had my stroke. So it's turned into something very positive that I'm really enjoying. And I'm going to stop there for a moment, see if anybody has any questions, comments, or queries.
Yeah, indeed. Wonderful hearing from you, Christopher. And, I read it some book somewhere, and maybe others have also read it. There is a saying, it says, it goes something like turning poison into medicine. How do you use what you have been given to maybe help yourself, maybe in the process help others, and give you more satisfaction, more purpose? And I think somewhere consciously or subconsciously, you have had that feeling too, that vision too, and that is purpose. The moment I think you find that purpose, as with CNIB, as you have, I think life changes to some extent, and sometimes the more you put into it, to more extent. So I can imagine, as you were saying, happy, busy life. Yes, occasional operations, but getting pretty used to them also, I would imagine, although you were saying that from your birth, almost, you were having those operations. But one day, things go wrong. I just wonder, did you, going into that operation, had a feeling that this may go wrong, or it was just a kind of routine thing by now, when you went into that operation?
That's a great question, Hardeep. No, I never thought of anything going wrong. I'd never had anything go wrong in any of the previous surgeries, and so it never crossed my mind. And the doctors will always tell you, doctors in Canada, they always tell us, they say every surgery has a possibility of complications, but they're never very specific about those complications. And so you just kind of brush it off as, okay, yeah, whatever, complications. You don't really think too much about it. And at no point ever did anybody ever say to me, you could lose your vision, or, even worse, at no point did anybody say, you could die. You're right. Because at that point, I'd had 13 or 12 or 13 of these surgeries. It was almost routine to me, and almost, and for some of the doctors, I think it's fairly routine to them. So when something like this goes horribly wrong, I know that it really, it surprised the surgeon. He and I had a talk about it, and he said that it was something that he had never experienced in his career. Okay. So it was different for both of us.
Yeah. And do you think your earlier personality? You mentioned that earlier also you were an extrovert, going out. Did that help you in any manner? Did you think that was also maybe the foundation that helped you going forward? Once this very adverse event happened, that your inherent personality traits, of optimism, of taking things as they come, they helped you, or do you think that you develop new traits as a consequence, just to face and handle the situation? Where would you put it?
I think it definitely helped. Like I said, the on this planet for fun mentality was something I had started sort of embracing about 2 or 3 years before my sight loss and my stroke. So I think it definitely helped. I am very extroverted. I do have a lot of fun. So I still wanted to do things as much as I could, and I still wanted to enjoy life as much as I could, but I knew that I was going to have to do it differently. For one thing, I'm not allowed to drive anymore. I used to love driving everywhere. I used to take long road trips. And I used to, love being behind the wheel of a vehicle. And when I lost my sight, I had to give up my license. But so I wasn't able to get behind the wheel of a car anymore and travel anywhere. But as I was telling Hardeep in a previous conversation when we first met, I go-kart racing. When I want to feel the need to drive something, I race these little go-karts. And so now it's good because it's a controlled environment where I can go. Everybody's going the same direction around the track. And I've got my helmet on, my gloves, all my protective gear. And it lets me have that bit of fun driving again. So I found different ways to do it.
Yeah, great. You turn what you can, and you find fun into, or satisfaction into those aspects. And also you mentioned about that bargaining model. What was that? If you can elaborate, you went through some stages. You said about bargaining, acceptance. What is that? Is that a model, or is that something that you read somewhere, or what exactly is that?
So right. So let me explain that. So that's there's a thing in psychology, and I'm not a psychologist by trade, but I've read about this, and I had heard about this before. It's called the 5 stages of grief, and it's talking about any kind of grieving, whether you're grieving a relative, the passing of a relative, or whatever it is. It's called the 5 stages of grief, and those 5 stages, there's anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And they don't go in any particular order. So what it's basically talking about is, some days you're very angry about what happened, and you're frustrated and you're mad, and you're just everything about it seems wrong. Other days, the bargaining thing is more about you're sort of bargaining with the higher power that, if I could just have my sight back, I could be a better person. If I could just have my sight back, I would do so many other things to help people. So that's the bargaining portion. The depression, of course, is depression. I mean, many people have depression these days, and it's becoming more of an epidemic. And the denial as well. The denial that, no, this isn't real. I'm going to move past this. I'm going. You're trying to deny that it's going to be this way forever. So they're, in these mental states, they go on and on and on. And like I said, they don't go in any particular order, but eventually you do get to a point of acceptance where you accept that, okay, this is my life. This is what I've got. I'm going to make the best of this, hopefully. In fact, I read a book not too long ago talking about there being a 6th stage. And the 6th stage, going to what you just mentioned, Hardeep, is finding meaning. So after acceptance, finding meaning in what happened and what you can do with that, with the circumstances you've been given. So for me, the finding meaning would be my work at Cnib.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm seeing, 6th stage. Balaji has also said right now in the chat what you just now said. Yeah, that 6th stage is finding meaning. Yes. Great. I think we will open it out. Please feel free to raise your hand and put your questions or express your opinion either in the chat box. I see Mr. Wilson G has raised his hand. So Wilson sir, you can unmute yourself, maybe even put your video on, whatever you want to say, please do.
Yeah. My question, I would like to say about the gaining of the vision. What I heard, Mr. Christopher, as you could see when you said that you would see the hand of your wife, only the hand and no 2 fingers you could not see, and then you gained your vision almost after a year, that the complete vision. So I wanted to ask whether the specs have been advised by the ophthalmologist, or is it the vision without specs?
It's a bit of both. I did regain some of my vision, so I am still considered legally blind, so I don't see faces very well, and I have a hard time reading printed material. And even with glasses on, I do wear glasses. They can't make the glasses strong enough to fully correct my vision. So it'll never be perfect. But I do wear glasses that sort of, they just start, they help to sharpen up images and sharpen up edges of things a little bit for me to make it a little bit clearer.
For me, what has happened as of now, the specs I am wearing, or the glasses what I am wearing, it is the result of the stroke. That is what my physician and the neurophysician has told me, and my ophthalmologist, whom I showed my eyes when I was admitted, he saw and he prescribed me with this specs. Now, the right side of my vision, actually, I had a fall. I fall on the right side of my this thing, and this part of my optical nerve. There is an optical nerve. That is what the CT scanner said. The optical nerve has been damaged, and now when I'm seeing something, now when I'm seeing the screen of this computer, I could see the left side very much clear, but for the right side, I'll have to shift so that all the faces of all the participants, they will come on the right side. So this thing happens to me. The peripheral vision has been lost, and that is the problem. Even while reading, my reading has become very much slow, and I have to shift my vision. I have to shift my neck many a time from one word to another word, and like that. So my reading has also been stopped. But my neurophysician has told me that there is no need to go in for the peripheral testing. It will be all right as the time goes. So it is advised to me that peripheral testings are not very much important. That is, they are not going to, even my ophthalmologist has just given me the specs number, the eye number, but no proper treatment. So I wanted to ask whether this thing or this condition will be okay in the particular time, or will it, as the time goes on, will my vision be recovered after some time?
Right. That's a very good question, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't answer that question. But I think what'll happen, I do think what will happen, because I've heard of other people having a condition similar to yours, losing the peripheral and losing part. What we do, what my colleagues do at Cnib, is we train people to do exactly what you've described. You just turn your head a little bit more to use more of this side. Don't worry about the stuff. Don't fight the stuff you can't see over here. Don't fight it. Don't try to force it. Just live with the stuff that you do have. And if the other happens to bounce back, like I did get a little bit of mine back in both eyes, but not enough to drive. If you get some back, that's wonderful. But if you don't, at least you learn to live with what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. That is what is important, to live with what you have and make the best of it. Also, I think Sureshji was asked. Sureshji, are you there?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, you had some comments to make, or you wanted to say something. Yeah.
Hello, Christopher. Greetings all. Thank you for sharing the experience, and then it's very inspiring, as well as really helping us learn how to be optimistic even after having some kind of disability in life. My question for you, Christopher, is regarding the stages that you explained. But to cut it short, in India, acceptance itself is an issue. And before you go to that stage, what happens is you lose money, especially because you try and find different varieties of treatment, which can be a quick fix to your disability, whether it's permanent or temporary. And the second thing, you waste too much time, which is very precious in terms of, especially in stroke. If you don't get into any kind of therapy services that you require as soon as possible, you lose that remaining part in the brain which has actually survived stroke and then which is ready to be recovering. So given your experience, what would be your recommendation for people with stroke or any kind of disability in an Indian context to look to accept their disability and then move forward as quick as possible?
Right. And that's a great point. You're not wrong. I spent a lot of money trying to get treatments and things too, because a lot of our stuff is covered here in Canada, but there's certain things that are not. So I did spend some money trying other treatments and things. What I suggest, me personally, and acceptance comes eventually, but you're right. We sort of fight it on the way. What I would suggest is, yes, get in, especially get into the therapy that you can for the stroke, whether it's affecting an arm, a leg, or whatever, but also get assistance through a counselor, a psychiatrist, psychologist, or whomever with the emotional part, the mental part of what's happened. That's the part I really fight for now for any client or any person that I meet in our work who loses their vision suddenly because of stroke, accident, whatever. To help with those 5 stages or the 6 stages, you need help with the emotional part. And so to me, the 2 things have to go side by side. They have to be side by side and work together, because while you're getting your training and you're trying to get your use of your arm again, or you're trying to get use of that leg again, you need help with the fact that it's not working today the way it used to. And that's very demoralizing. It's very hard for people to accept. So that's why I think there's yes, get the physiotherapy that you can get, but also get help with the emotional part. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Thanks a lot, Christopher. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
I do tend to agree, Chris, but at the same time, what happens, maybe not in Canada, but what happens in the Indian context, or maybe in some other context also, we have so-called alternative medicine. We have Ayurveda, a system of Indian massage and medicine. We have Reiki, for example. We have, I think, Marma therapy, for example, which apparently, at least for some people, has worked after they reached a point where the traditional therapy was not working. So that is a very tough call. I tend to feel that yes, if one can accept, fine. If one cannot, and if one can afford, because all these things are expensive also, and some of them frankly don't work. I mean, we have had experiences in my mother's case, for example. I mean, we spent about ₹1 lakh on a treatment, which after about 3-4 sittings and ₹1 lakh, a lot of money in India, somewhere in 2005, 2006, and only to realize that it is not working. So it is a call, from the point of, I was just seeing Ruchi's, for example, she has put a message on the chat. She says it's very difficult to accept the disability, and living with that disability is hell. That's what Ruchi Rana says. Maybe more so in Indian context also, because unfortunately India is not very disabled friendly, so as to say. I'm sure other countries also have situations, but India is perhaps certainly not as good as maybe USA or maybe Canada is. So yes, it is difficult to, and one does try to make all the efforts that one can to see if there is a possibility of somehow getting out of that. You also talked about family support, and that is, I think, it's a very good point. Family support, the caregiver support, is extremely important, and I'm sure I'm sure everyone here would agree with that this is it is critical. And again, I don't know about Canada, because you mentioned about some long-term disability program, what is that? If you can elaborate upon that, that gives you some assured income for some time period. What is it?
Right. So I want to touch on a couple things that you mentioned, Hardeep. First of all, I want to go back and talk about the alternative treatments for a moment. I did try some alternative treatments. I did acupuncture. I did acupuncture. I went to see an herbalist. So I tried some Chinese tea that a friend told me. And you're right, I wasted a lot of money on those things and they didn't work. But it was worth a try. Now at least mentally, I know it didn't work. I don't have to wonder if it would have worked, right? And going to your other comment, I will get to your question about long-term disability in a moment. Going to your other comment about things being very different, I do understand that, and I do appreciate that. That when I'm traveling for work, because I'm not allowed to drive, I take Uber a lot. My company pays for it. I take Uber to go to my presentations, and very often the Uber drivers are from other countries. And so when I tell them what I do and where I work, they tell me the same thing you just said. They said that, disability supports for stuff like vision in their home country, wherever their home country is. They tell me, oh yeah, it's not like that back home. We don't have that kind of help. We don't have that kind of support. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate what your group members are saying, that it is more difficult in some regions. I can completely understand. And that's why I am thankful for what we have here. Long-term disability. So long-term disability is a program that was sponsored by my employer. Yes, that if I go on a work-related disability for any reason, my employer would pay my wage for a certain amount of time. Well, actually, sorry, that's not true. It's not the employer who pays it. The insurance company that they contract pays it. So the employer has a contract with an insurance company. The insurance company pays my wage while I'm on this disability. And I could have been on disability for as long as there was a maximum of 3 years. But I chose to find another job after 7 months because I was bored out of my tree. Sorry, that's slang. I was very bored, very, very dissatisfied sitting at home doing nothing. So I said, forget your disability. I'm going back to work. But yeah, I did have that backup plan from my employer for a period of time.
That is a strong support that you have at least something to fall back on. In India, although I think there are some insurance companies now offering, that is something that we need to look further into. But yes, that is something, at least it's a support. Sureshi has something to say. Yes, Sureshi, please.
Yes, I think both of you dealt with the key word here called support. And I think that is the solution in any context. And in India, the family support becomes something that's really, really critical and crucial, especially when it comes to acceptance. Because whether somebody experiencing disability accept disability or not, if one of the family member can accept what it is, then the decision making becomes really, really simple and efficient rather than cost consuming and then time consuming. And similarly, when it comes to the support system that Christopher is mentioning, especially outside home and outside family, such kind of system is still it's not even in a very early stage of development in an Indian context or any low and middle income country context. So it's the support that matters a lot, and if the support can come from family, I think that's the easiest way to actually start accepting what it is, and then saving some money to do what is actually essential and optimize the resources that we have in hand. Because in India, we put money from our pocket rather than the government spending on our rehab, unlike Canada. And similarly, when we move out, I think it's the systems that is actually outside the community in place. Let it be accessible environment, policies within the policies that exist in the industries. I think policies for disabled, which are on paper, that can be implementable in the general context in any place. I think the support system is certainly a key to both accept and then kind of recover and then have a wonderful participation in social life as usual, when whether it's Canada or whether it's India. Thank you.
Sarishi, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to clarify something. So yes, in Canada, we do have a wonderful healthcare system that covers many things. However, vision therapy and the help and the training that I was talking about from Canadian National Institute for the Blind, the CNIB is not a government agency. It is actually a charity. It is actually a charity that accepts donations and does fundraising and all of these things to help our participants and even to pay my salary. So they don't, we don't get government funding. We don't get government support, which is actually something that we're trying to fight, because in Canada, we have really great rehabilitation for stroke when it comes to necks and arms and legs and a side of the body or whatever. We do a lot of rehabilitation therapy in hospital and through the medical system. But when it comes to therapy for lost eyesight, yes, you go see a doctor and the doctor says, yes, you have this, and maybe they give you some drops. But the training that I got with assistive technology, the training for the cane, the training for using things around the home, all of that came from a charity that we're lucky exists.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that kind of an organization, and we are actually foreseeing such kind of efforts towards supporting stroke survivors and even people with other kind of disability. So thanks for sharing that aspect as well. Yes, civil society's engagement and participation is absolutely crucial at this stage.
Oh, it's critical. Absolutely critical. Yeah. And I just the last thing I'll say on that, I want to go back and touch on the family support, because I know a few of you have touched on this now. I 100% agree. The family support was super important. The support of even my friends. I have some very, very close friends who really stuck by me. Whereas I had other friends. I had one friend who, when I lost my vision and I told her about it, she actually said to me, I can't talk to you anymore because what happened to you scares me. So she went out of my life. But I had other friends who really, they rallied right around me and they stuck with me, and they're still wonderful friends even now.
Yes, indeed. That is extremely important. What I would touch upon, I think Mr. Wilson has wants to say something. After that, I would really like to touch upon how exactly, what are the various means, and maybe hear from others also of having fun, that is something I'll come back to for sure. Wilson, you wanted to say something, and after that, we will ask, or open the forum to how to have fun. Yes, Wilson sir, you want to say something? Is he there? Okay.
Well, Mr. Christopher, I would like to ask one question regarding your organization, which you said that CNIB, that is Canadian National Board for Blinds, it's a charitable organization, and do they have a global outreach? Now, since it is helping with the people affected with stroke or blindness, or with ophthalmic or optical problems, do the CNIB helps people out through the globe?
Unfortunately, no. So there are many types of agencies like CNIB around the world. Like in Britain, in England, they have RNIB, the Royal National Institute for the Blind. Australia has an organization called Vision Australia. And in the United States is a bit different. They don't have a national organization like ours. They have a bunch of different organizations all doing similar things. But unfortunately, no, CNIB doesn't really have global outreach. But one thing I will tell you that I have seen is friends and family, or people from different countries have come into our office, and they've purchased a white cane, or they've purchased magnifiers or whatever equipment, and then they have shipped them home to their relatives in India, in Africa, in South America. I've seen a lot of people do that. But so they come and they get the things from us, but unfortunately the service we provide with our folks don't help outside of our borders. They're not able to.
Well,
That's interesting. You have equipment that can, maybe we can look further into that. And Wilson, just to, I'm not very sure, but just to partly add in, I think in India we have some blind charity organizations. I am not very sure of their functioning, but maybe it is worth looking into. And at the same time, what I would do, and maybe what we can do, Chris, after this meet, certainly it will be worthwhile to look at what you have to offer. Maybe put it on a board somewhere, including with us, so that people who are having those situations, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the assistive devices available, how to use them, etc., so that anyone in India looking at that and seeing possibilities, at least knows that these things exist. That will be useful. I think we will work on that. Yeah. And
I can definitely send you a link for that.
Yeah, and I think I have some friends at least in the Daily Blind Society. Let me explore that further. I haven't so far done into that. And Parulji wants to say something. Parulji, you can unmute yourself and put forward your views. Yeah.
Good to hear you, sir. Mr. Christopher, I'm really happy to hear your story, and that is really motivating for all of us. And actually, my brother is a stroke survivor. I have a small question, because you explained about the blindness aspect of it. My brother is suffering with hemiplegia on the right side of the body, and he has a problem of aphasia also, which is acute aphasia. He can understand everything, but he really can't speak anything, not even vowels. He's really not able to speak anything. It's been now 8 or 9 months. So in your discussion, you also said that your organization also has a lot of other, training rehab programs for the hemiplegic patients. So I just want to know if you have some good, references, or, where we have, perhaps we can consult and we can get a guidance on these two parts, hemiplegia and aphasia, these two things.
I don't have anything off the top of my head, but what I'll do is I'll find some links and some materials from my colleagues. So when it comes to my organization, my teammates that I work with, they're the ones who do all the service providing. I like to call myself the mouthpiece. I'm just out there talking about the services. They're the ones who do all the great work. But what I'll do is I'll ask them about some links, and I'll share them with Hardeep. That he can share with you. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. Let me look into that for you.
Yes, that will be great. We can take it further from there. Parulji, you might be aware there is the National Aphasia Association in the US. I don't know if you are a member of them. They do put out a lot of literature. National Aphasia Association of the US. You can search on that, or maybe I can send you the link also. They're pretty active. They have, in fact, weekly sessions for aphasia sufferers and the family caregivers. They get together on Zoom meetups, etc. I'll put some information on the board also for the whole group also. If anyone is not aware of them, and I'm a member there. I do keep on getting their mailers, etc. And anyone can. It's an open organization. Fine. Coming back, Chris, I just wanted to know how to have more fun. That is, what are the tips? What are the tricks? And if anyone has anything to share, please feel free. How do you view life? What are you doing? What things make you happy as of now, as a caregiver or as a stroke affected? What keeps you occupied? That would be of interest. In case what you mentioned, go-karting. Yes, of course, that is an interesting. We have go-karts here also. But what else does, as of now, keep you busy, and how do you see that going forward?
That's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned the go-karting because that one's important to me. But also, I love learning. So I've got assistive technology. In fact, I'm going to turn my camera here. This device in front of me here. Get my glass out of the way. This is a device for reading paperwork and books. So I can put a piece of paper on here. I've just got a piece of paper. Come on now. Come on, there it goes. So I can put a piece of paper on here and I can read it. And so I read a lot of books. I also, as I was telling Hardeep before our session started, in the iPhone that I'm using to do this call, there is wonderful assistive technology that is built into the iPhone. I do appreciate that they're very expensive. As I was sharing with him, they're very expensive in Canada too. But knowing the service it provides me, I find a way to afford that, because it lets me read books, it lets me email, it lets me text and go on the internet, go on Facebook. It lets me do all of those things. So the other things that I do for enjoyment, I love music. I love music. I'm always moving around. I'm always tapping my toes, or my spouse teases me because I like to play air drums. So I play along with the songs as I want. I go for walks. I mean, I was given a white cane and shown how to sort of navigate my neighborhood safely. So I go out for walks and I just enjoy it. It's turning summer here turning spring in Canada. And yesterday we had 20 degrees Celsius for the first time this year, which was wonderful. So I got out for a walk, and these are the things that I do. And I still watch television. I don't see the faces on television very well, but I still watch television, and I watch comedy shows, or I watch movies. I may not see the actors, but I can follow the story and I can listen. And so I still try to enjoy those things. And I just find the humor in what I do. Like, even my job, even though I'm dealing, like, I myself had my own challenges and my own sadness from losing my sight. And I work with clients who have the same. But even when I'm talking to those clients, it gives me such a good feeling to be able to show them how the phone works, or show them a magnifier that's going to help them see better. And that's such a good feeling that it makes me feel so much better. And I know that it makes them feel better when they go, oh, okay, I can do this again. Those are fun for me. I enjoy that. It's not always about doing silly things like go-karting or, going skydiving, if that's your thing. It doesn't have to be that outrageous. I find fun in day-to-day life.
Great. I would certainly like to hear from others. I see Balaji is here, Forum is here, Jagdeep, Jaspal. What are your thoughts? Please feel free to come in.
Yes, please share.
Please share. You can speak up, or you can raise your hands, or you can put in the chat box. How are you, facing the situations that you are having? And I know that most of the people here have faced one challenge or another. I think Jagdeep would like to say something. Yeah, please, Jagdeep ji. Please, yes, you can.
Yeah, I think what Chris has shared, that in his daily activities, whatever little things he's doing for himself and for community to help, those things are very big motivating factors for anyone, like not only people affected, even for a normal people. And yes, we are on the other side of our experiences, like as a carer, but carer also have lots of challenges, because they are also going through emotional turmoil. And my experience is different, of course. not with a stroke patient, but with a different kind of practical struggle in the life. And sometimes life changes. And in my case also, it was just absolutely 360-degree turn. And these are very challenging factors, and you become very negative and depressed coping with those things. Even you try to thank God that you are healthy, you are mobile, you are everything. But emotional turmoil, emotional pressure is so high sometimes that even a normal person, despite good health, feels sick. And these are very important things. Appreciating daily life, appreciating small community jobs, which gives you some sense of achievement. That is very helpful. That's very helpful as a stroke survivor, as well as a carer as well. And this group, like this kind of forum, is really very helpful to share with each other, to talk to each other. And as Suresh was talking about India, in India, I think because the support system is very different, not like Canada or not like any developed countries as UK and USA. So these things help a lot. These like NGOs, these stroke support groups, where we can talk and share to each other and give experiences. And on the base of experiences, one can help to give some guidance. Because financial aspect is very important. Social support system is very important in India. And if people like few of us gather together to try our best, whatever little we can do, that will be very big achievement for such groups.
Absolutely, I agree, because that is, I think, the crux of any support group is essentially sharing experiences, learning, maybe even drawing inspiration from the challenges that others have overcome. And for sure, in our group, we have many examples. We have examples of people facing challenges. We have examples of people overcoming challenges. And I think that in itself is an inspiration. And whatever little bit, I agree with their judgment. Yeah, whatever little bit one can do, it helps. It helps maybe firstly oneself, that, okay, I did a little bit, beyond let's say, my immediate necessity, that did something more. So that is a great factor. And yes, certainly sharing in groups like these, in this group, it's wonderful to have people joining in, and sharing their thoughts. Certainly. Anyone else would like to say something? We are approaching about 7:40 now. It has gone beyond the time that I anticipated. But please, if anyone wants to share something, what concerns you, maybe it's an opportunity also. We are together here. Maybe we can hear each other's views. Anything that you would like to say, please feel free. Raise your hand or just unmute yourself and talk about that. You can do that. Anyone would like to say something?
So Hardeep, it's Christopher, and I'd like to say one other thing, just I want to echo what the last person just said. So yes, talking about getting help and support, absolutely. And some of the support that I got in my early days, my first couple of years of my sight loss, was actually from other friends who I made. I didn't know them before, but I made other friends with people who were blind. And I asked them, how do I do this? Or like if there was a task that I was struggling with, I asked them, how do I do this? Or how do I manage this? One of the things was riding the transit system in Toronto, where I was living at the time. I said, I go to the train stop, and there's a turnstile, there's a gate that I have to go through. And if there's no person there to open the gate for me, how do I get through it? And the guy told me, he said, they gave you a card and it has a black stripe on it. He said, you swipe the black stripe through this machine and it'll open the gate. And I'm like, I didn't know this. This is amazing. So, just little things like that, being able to ask other people who have the experience was so helpful to me. And so I absolutely agree with everything that's gone on here today. The support of friends, the support of family, the support of a group like this one. And if you'll have me, I'd love to be back for another one of these calls. Not as a speaker, but as a listener. Because
you are welcome. I will send you the link to our group also. And of course, we have frequent such meetups. You're always welcome. I will send you the link. You can come in anytime. We would love to have you. And also, we would love to have occasionally excerpts from the book, as well as the videos that you have. Please feel free to share. I'll send you the link. Some of them are quite interesting and funny also. In fact, I'm going to speak to some of the people. What was that? Monday morning, something like that. You have
Mondays. Yes.
Mondays.
Mondays.
Yes, I have some. I'm already speaking to some people there, and we will have them here. Fine. I think it's great. Anyone would like to say something? Otherwise, we can close the meeting. We are almost 70 minutes now in the meeting. Anyone would like to say something? Otherwise, well, all stay well. And I hope this was of interest to you. Please feel free. I put on the chat box how you can give us any feedback. I will again put it there just for everyone's reference. Please feel free to put forward all your feedback, all your comments, all your thoughts for future meetings. We would love to hear that. And well, all stay safe and stay well. And thanks a lot for your time, Chris. It was wonderful having you. It was wonderful having this opportunity of everyone getting together again and chatting up with you as well as with all the people here. Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks again, Chris.
Thank you very much for having me, Hardeep, and everybody else. Yes, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Stay safe, stay well, all, and I'm going to end the meeting.